Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you live in a bustling city, you already know the daily, visceral pain of watching that petrol pump meter just race upwards. With prices sitting stubbornly around 105 to 110 rupees a liter, we are all pretty desperate to save some cash on our daily commute. And if you've even briefly searched for a solution online, the algorithms have absolutely bombarded you with the same targeted marketing. Go electric, save petrol, zero pollution. It sounds like the ultimate perfect solution, right? Well, today, we're taking a completely objective, hard look at the source data to see if that marketing actually holds up to the real-world math.
Okay, let's dive right into this, because this specific quote is exactly how they hook you. Drive for just 21 paise per kilometer. I mean, it's incredibly tempting, but by the end of this explainer, you are going to see exactly why this claim is honestly this decade's biggest financial myth. Assuming an EV automatically saves you money from day one is a massive oversimplification, and we are going to break down exactly why.
So here is our roadmap to the truth today. 1. Upfront costs and subsidies. 2. Hidden loans and insurance. 3. The break-even math. 4. Infrastructure reality. 5. Range reality. And finally, 6. The resale value verdict.
Let's kick things off. Chapter 1. The upfront trap and the subsidy waiting game. Think about this for a second. If electric vehicles are an absolute natural winner that automatically saves everyone money, why exactly does the government need to push a massive 10,900 crore rupee PM e-drive scheme? Well, the source material points out a major catch here. The vast majority of this massive budget is specifically allocated for two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and buses, not your personal car. When you buy a private EV car, you really aren't getting the lion's share of this scheme. You're essentially just buying a giant electrochemical battery on wheels.
And this creates what we call the upfront trap. Take your standard hatchback. The petrol version sits around 6.3 lakhs, but its EV twin, that jumps to roughly 8 lakhs. You are paying a massive premium upfront just to avoid the petrol pump later. It's literally like a landlord asking you to pay 2 years of rent in advance just so you don't have to pay monthly. Plus, while you might be banking on government subsidies between 18,000 to 30,000 rupees to soften that blow, the reality on the ground is that in many states, buyers end up waiting years for those delayed reimbursements. Now, to be fair, it's worth noting that states like Telangana do offer instant upfront waivers right at the dealer's invoice, which is great, but it's definitely not the norm everywhere.
Moving right along to Chapter 2, Battery Economics and Hidden Costs. Even if you manage to swallow that hefty upfront premium, there are entirely hidden layers of financing and insuring an EV that just quietly eat away at your supposed savings. Now yes, EVs do have a genuine, permanent GST advantage. They're taxed at a flat 5%, while petrol cars get absolutely slammed with 28% plus an additional cess. That looks phenomenal on paper. But since the baseline cost of an EV is 20 to 30% higher, the loan you take from the bank is significantly larger. So all those fantastic tax savings, yeah, they are frequently swallowed up by the much higher loan interest you'll be paying every single month.
The absolutely crucial point here is understanding what you are actually financing. For a mid-range vehicle, like the Tata Nexon EV, its 30.2 kilowatt-hour battery accounts for about 4.5 to 5.5 lakhs out of the total 14.5 lakh price tag. That is roughly 34% of the car's entire value. And if you step up to a premium EV with a 60 kilowatt-hour battery, that battery alone can cost up to 11 lakhs. That's taking up to 60% of the vehicle's entire manufacturing value. It's wild.
And because that battery is so immensely valuable, your insurance company knows the stakes are incredibly high. Currently, EV insurance premiums are typically 10 to 25% higher than their petrol counterparts. Why? Because if that battery pack gets even slightly damaged, there is no quick fix at a local repair facility. It requires a complete, extremely expensive replacement. Now, the data does show that fire and theft claims have actually been lower than expected, which might hopefully bring insurance rates down by 2026, but right now, you absolutely must factor in this higher premium.
All right, let's get into the math. Chapter 3, the true break-even equation. This is where the rubber finally meets the road. This is the exact mathematical equation you need to justify an EV purchase. Grab a pen, because this right here is the golden rule. Let's look at the two-wheeler market just to keep the math incredibly clear for a second. An on-road petrol Honda Activa 6G is about 95,300 rupees. Its electric competitor, the TVS iQube, is roughly 129,700. That means right out of the gate, you have an upfront cash gap of 34,400 rupees. To truly save money, your fuel savings have to cross that 34,400 rupee finish line.
So how do we actually recover that gap?
While running a petrol scooter costs roughly 2 rupees and 38 paise per kilometer, while charging your EV at home costs just 21 paise per kilometer. That means you're saving about 2 rupees and 17 paise for every kilometer you ride. But here is the hard math. To recover that 34,400 rupee gap at a rate of 2.17 per kilometer, you must ride a total of 15,800 kilometers just to break even.
So here is your definitive buying rule. If your daily commute is under 15 kilometers, honestly, stick to petrol. An EV just doesn't make financial sense for you. But if you're riding over 25 kilometers a day, the EV is a massive win. At 23 kilometers a day, you'll break even in 2 years. At 43 kilometers a day, you break even in just 1. For cars, you need to be driving over 15,000 kilometers a year. If you just drive a 15-kilometer round trip to the office every day, you aren't saving money. You're just prepaying 5 years of petrol directly to the dealership.
Which brings us to Chapter 4, Infrastructure Reality Check. Because that beautiful 21 paise per kilometer math we just did, yeah, it relies entirely on a very, very specific assumption, charging at home. Let's look at the harsh reality of public infrastructure. If you rely on public fast chargers instead of a dedicated home unit, that 21 paise illusion instantly shatters. Public charging costs 2 to 3 times more than your home electricity rate. In an independent 5-year cost analysis, if you rely heavily on public charging, an EV and a petrol car end up costing almost exactly the same at 12,000 kilometers a year.
So, the absolutely crucial point is, you must charge at home. But wait, 70% of urban Indians live in apartments or rentals. You can't exactly dangle a massive extension cord from a 5th-floor balcony, right? You need housing society permission, separate meters, and complex load balancing. And a lot of societies are pushing back hard because it's pure arithmetic. If 10 residents plug in their EV simultaneously, the common electricity load spikes, literally threatening the entire building's grid.
Okay, so what if you are forced to use public chargers? Early 2024 survey data of 25,000 public stations revealed a frankly shocking truth. 50% of them were completely non-functional. That is over 12,000 dead charging stations. And for the ones that actually do work, you often need 17 to 20 different fragmented mobile apps, endless KYC processes, separate digital wallets, and the patience to deal with broken QR codes while you're standing out in the rain. It's a lot.
Chapter 5, Range Reality versus the Lab Fantasy.
Finding a working charger is honestly only half the battle. Imagine this highway scenario. The shiny brochure says your EV has a 300-kilometer range. Great. But turn on the AC in our brutal summers? Bam, that instantly eats 20% of your battery. Hit stop-and-go traffic, there goes another 10%. Suddenly, your straightforward 300-kilometer trip triggers a mathematical anxiety attack because your real, actual range is barely 200 kilometers. Add to that the fact that average charging times here are 1.5 to 2 hours compared to the global benchmark of 20 to 60 minutes, and long road trips require some seriously careful planning.
And finally, Chapter 6, the resale value cliff and alternatives.
What happens when you actually want to sell this vehicle 3 to 5 years down the line? With a petrol engine, mechanics can verify its health pretty easily. But EV batteries? They are completely invisible to the naked eye. Buyers panic because there is currently no universal battery health certificate. The impact of this is brutal. A 25-lakh MG ZS EV from 2023 was listed at just 15 lakhs 2 years later. That's a brutal 40% depreciation. Meanwhile, traditional petrol vehicles like Hondas routinely retain 55 to 67% of their value even after 4 years. Now, to be completely fair, high-demand models like the Tata Nexon EV do buck this trend a bit, retaining up to 70 to 75% after 3 years, but the wider market still faces massive resale anxiety. But the industry does have a clever solution to this, and it's called Battery as a Service, or BAS. This is especially popular in the 2- and 3-wheeler space right now. You buy the vehicle without the battery, and instead you pay a monthly subscription. This is huge because it entirely shifts the battery degradation and replacement risk right back to the manufacturer. You sidestep the whole resale cliff entirely because the battery was never your liability to begin with. Pretty smart, right?
So, the absolutely crucial point to take away from all this data is that an EV isn't purely an automatic savings machine, it's a lifestyle math equation. You should absolutely buy an EV today if your daily bike commute is over 25 kilometers or your car usage exceeds 15,000 kilometers a year and you have reliable access to a dedicated home charger. But
Skip it or stick to a hybrid or petrol vehicle if you have a short commute, rely solely on public charging, or face strict apartment society bans. We've covered the financial and infrastructural reality today, but we haven't even touched on the hidden environmental costs of battery production, which is a fascinating deep dive topic for another time. For now, we really want to hear from you. What is your actual daily commute distance? And based on this hard math we just did, does an EV actually make sense for your lifestyle today? Let us know in the pinned comment below, keep calculating, and thanks so much for exploring this with us.